Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome you in here to the historic Content Fantasy Podcast with your host, Michael Della Rocca and James Ashby.
And we're back! What's up, guys? Michael Della Rocca, James Ashby over there. James, you enjoy week 1 of the fantasy season?
I really did, and it is a pleasure to be back here with you for our 182nd episode here. You know, we're coming up on 200. Hard to believe it went that fast, but you still look cuter every day we get on here. And I still feel that magic with you, right? I still
Absolutely.
feel those butterflies when we
To
get
another
on here.
182 more, and
Right.
hopefully even more.
Absolutely.
So let's just get right into this nonsense that has been week 1 of the football season, as me being a CMC owner stuck on Monday night, having to suffer and watch that 49er team run through my Jets. What did you think of the whole Jordan Mason finding out on Friday that he's starting CMC and all that nonsense?
Yeah, seems like a bit of gamesmanship coming from Shanny, but I mean, frankly, that's what he should be doing. And if he doesn't have to release those injury reports, he's not going to be thinking about fantasy football. I think
That's true.
sometimes people forget that these coaches are just trying to do everything they can to win, and that's what they're going to continue to do. I mean, it sucks for the Jordan Mason owners too, who didn't have a spot in their lineup for him, right? Didn't know he'd be the starting back in there. And that's week one, and that's sort of how it goes. You took CMC, coming out here thinking that he'd be RB1 or the number one player overall, you're definitely shaking in your boots this week. But tell me how you felt when you got this news.
I mean, I knew I lost my game. I knew I was in a tight game. The league I had CMC in with the defending champion, and I had Aaron, G Will, and CMC come when I woke up, and then Aaron and G Will were okay, and G Will was a little disappointing at the end, but you know. Not having CMC proved to be the downer on my team, and me not having Jordan Mason probably, I had Isaac. I went with the other guy, and they seemed to not like him to this week, which was tough. That was cost me a game.
Yes, yeah, that rookie, he was highly claimed on the waivers, and yeah, that was a tough game for you. A-Rod and that Jets offense really stalls after that one touchdown drive. Really hurt G Willie. But going to the other side of it, where do you forecast G Willie? Do you think those two get back on track?
Well, I mean, I think G Willie's a top 20 wide receiver. I think Aaron has the potential to be a top 15 quarterback this year, and I think they're only going to get better as the season goes. It was Aaron's first game. I do worry about the guards on the Jets. They didn't really look that dominant, mostly in the run blocking situation, which has forced Aaron. I thought the Jets to do a lot of quick passes really early on, which is not great. I also thought like the Lazard drop and a couple penalties kind of threw momentum off the offense a lot, but I think that G Willie is a top 20. I don't know if he's like, to me, he is not yet Devontae Adams. He's not obviously Justin Jefferson or any of those type tier 1 receivers, AJB, CD Lamb. To me, he's like the tier 3, Devonta Smith. He's a good wide receiver. Maybe 3 on your fantasy team, or maybe even 2. Like if you have him as your wide receiver 3, that's a great flex. That's a superstar flex. As a 2, he's solid 2, and that's kind of where I have him going the rest of the way. Same thing with Aaron.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there is a lot of reason for optimism. Keep in mind they just faced a top three defense in the league. The schedule does get much easier from
They're
here.
only going to get better with time.
Yeah,
That
and
was
and
their first
frankly,
full game.
you saw A-Rod, you saw some flashes. You saw them move down the field, and while it did end up stalling out for the rest of the game, I think there is a lot of reason for optimism. And I think too, we're talking about a quarterback who hasn't played football in 2 years as well, right? And so I don't care how great he is. You're still going to see some rust there. And while I am always skeptical of these New York Jets, at the end of the day, the Jets seemingly will always be the Jets until they show us otherwise. We're talking about the longest playoff drought in the current sports world, and so I do think they have a chance to prove otherwise, though, with that defense. And we shall see.
I mean, that defense didn't look all that great. I mean, Jordan Mason and that 49er O line that was kind of just put together really ran through them, which is
Up.
kind of. I'm very curious, as we were talking. I'm a CMC owner. If CMC plays this week, because the way that O line and Jordan Mason dominated, he was held at limited in practice as of Wednesday. So I don't know if he's gonna play this week. Like, would you play him? Or if you're a CMC owner and you don't have Jordan Mason, are you possibly thinking about going to a different option?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the latest report that I saw was we were looking at 3 to 4 weeks or so for CMC. So I mean, if you're a Jordan Mason owner, you're very excited. You're probably not able to trade for this guy at this point. I mean, just going from zero to hero like he did. And I think for the next month or so, you could have a you could have a very nice back there in an incredible offense. And if you're a CMC owner, it's just wait and see. They're going to be cautious with this guy. He was their entire offense essentially last year. So I think they're going to take their time with him. I think they're playing the long game too, right? They want to be in the Super Bowl at the end of the year, and so I think for you in the fantasy playoffs and the late regular season, you're hopeful. And so, speaking of injury news in this week one, let's kick it over to producer Hussey for the latest updates.
How's it going, everyone? This week we have both Miami Dolphins running backs, Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, being limited and potentially out for this week's contest.
Now, explain to me how this Miami Dolphin team trades up in the fourth round to take Jalen Wright, and we get reports that this news comes out that Jeff Wilson is going to get carries if either of those two are missing. Like, explain to me how that makes any sense, James.
Yeah, I mean, Mike McDaniel seemingly loves to throw us curveballs like this. We saw it with the blow up Raheem Mostert season. He was what RB1 for at least half the season there, right? And so I think we have to expect the unexpected. And sort of even like Jordan Mason, like we saw in San Fran. We're expecting them to throw the rookie in there, and these coaches have other ideas.
Well, it's a quick turnaround game, too, because it's Thursday night on Amazon, Bills Dolphins. So these guys being limited on Tuesday and Wednesday, it's not the worst thing in the world because they should kind of know the playbook. Both guys have been here for more than a year. They have an idea. It's not a new coaching staff. But, like, that's not a good sign if they're not practicing that they might play. And if they have to lean on Jeff Wilson, I would personally, I'm also a Jalen Wright owner, so I think he should be the guy getting the opportunity there. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, and we shall see.
All right, another injury we have. Speaking of Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey is still questionable for this week, dealing with a calf injury as well as Achilles tendonitis.
Wow, surprised that they still just have him as questionable. I mean, I would be really shocked if they push this guy to get back in there for week two when again they have long-term aspirations with this guy, especially an Achilles injury.
Yeah, it's not about winning week 2 for them. It's about winning the Super Bowl. So CMC is not really especially with the way that offensive line and Jordan Mason moved last week. I would not be shocked if CMC does not go again.
All right, moving on to some wide receivers. Both Bears wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, did not practice today. Keenan Allen with his heel, and Rome Odunze felt a pop in his knee. Could be a grade 1 sprain.
Wow, yeah, and I mean you are excited if you have DJ Moore. We're expecting some pickup at some point from Caleb Williams, and we saw what he did with Justin Fields last year. So I think you have to be excited for that guy.
As someone who has questioned, I mean, Keenan Allen, he has a new issue last year. I love Keenan
He's your
Allen.
favorite
One of the
Allen.
best. He's my favorite Allen. He's one of the best route runners I've ever seen. Since the back issue, he had that pop off last year, but he always has something nagging him. And I always looked at Rome Odunze as another guy who had a couple issues in college with injuries and stuff like that. And seeing that occur, not not shocking for either party. As James said, DJ Moore probably going to be the one, but I don't know. Caleb struggled week 1. We're not even in those Chicago winters yet. Who knows what Caleb's actually going to be? This team's probably going to need to be ground and pound and really not be as explosive as maybe it wants to be. But I do agree DJ Moore is probably going to be the prime target. But he's a guy who's had injury issues in the past too and inconsistencies and stuff like that. So someone on this Bears team is going to have to step up.
Absolutely. Could be one of the running backs too. You do have Roshan back there. He's a very
100%.
capable running
They
back
need
as well. But
they need to find another playmaker because Caleb in the NFL realized quickly that hero ball and that type of I could be the best player on the field. That's not what wins you here. Yes, there's certain guys, but you need other people to get it there. And Keenan and Rome not being healthy, that's going to affect Caleb. They're going to have to find other guys.
Could be a Swift game, you know.
DeAndre Swift is another. That's why they paid him. They paid him money for a reason. Like you would expect him to be more, involved in the offense. Their defense won them a game. Maybe they're trying to not have, which also brings you to the running backs. Not lose the game, control the clock.
All right, on to another receiver. Puka Nacua could miss potentially more than 4 games with a PCL sprain, landing on the IR. How does that fare for the rest of the Rams receivers?
yeah, I mean, with Puka, frankly, I think first of all we had to anticipate some regression. Obviously, not a
100%. I mean, we
injury.
both agreed that there was no way Puka Nacua could keep up what he could keep up. I mean, we both thought that Cooper Kupp was going to turn it around. I talked to a lot of people who thought that Cooper wasn't playing fully healthy last year, and he was going to be someone who was going to get his still. He's one of the best route runners in the league, and he's still elite. Treats his body great, and he's going to get his. And you saw it this past weekend when even with Nacua out, they went to him all the time. That Rams O line has nobody left playing. A lot of guys are hurt. There's a dude suspended, and Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, all reliable, getting it done.
Absolutely, it's
I
great
just
to see, and I'd expect it to continue.
I just think for those other guys, they're in that Tyler Higbee situation where they're just kind of like whatever Cooper Kupp's not getting, hope they fill that spot and Matt Stafford gives them the ball. I also wonder if that O-line, the easiest thing for anyone to do is just say, hey, block the guy in front of you, which is really mostly run blocking. With Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, I could easily see them saying, hey, let's put 2 tight ends out there now that we have this injury to Puka, and let's just continue to run the ball. Let's block, and let's go to single back and just try and, run some clock and control the ball.
Yeah, absolutely, and frankly, it was staggering the ADP gap between the two. You have such high expectations for Puka to come out here and be a wide receiver 1, and it looks like you got Cooper Kupp at a discount.
All right, on to some quarterback news. Russell Wilson was limited in practice today. That means, Fields could be in line for another start. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, James is the Steeler fan here, but as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, that seems to be fine with Mike Tomlin. That's his offensive mentality. Arthur Smith is also fine with that. They have very much a Steeler way going on.
Yeah, frankly, I don't think they're going to ask him to do much. I think like this past game, that's really what they want to see is just go out there, don't make a lot of mistakes. You have an improving offensive line, rookie center who looked absolutely phenomenal. You have 2 capable backs back there. Obviously, you have the defense. Just go out there, don't fuck it up, don't be the reason that we lose, and rely on what you have around them. Because you look at the passing there. Completion percentage was great, mostly because there are a ton of underneath throws there. You had a couple throws downfield over the middle, but they're keeping it contained there. They're using their weapons, and they're not asking him to do much. And I think he can be good at that.
So one of the things I do want to talk about is the current Bengals situation going on here, like Jamar Chase's contract issue, leaving not really practicing. T. Higgins missing some practice time this week. Joe Burr having his wrist issue, not really finishing everything. James, this Bengal team did not look good this past week.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, as a Steeler fan, it's always nice to see. But also, if you've watched the Bengals long enough, you know that they always suck week 1. But frankly, looking into this Joe Burrow injury, he's the only quarterback, at least in recent history, that's ever tried to play through it. Really limiting in what he can do with the snap of his wrist. Um, and the future of his career could look a little bleak as far as what his upside is. But there's a ton of weapons here. At some point, Chase and Higgins are going to get on track. And so I do think this offense will still be potent. I think you have to be patient like you have in previous years.
They might start out 0-2. They play the Chiefs this week. That's big. Starting out 0-2. That's a big hole. We could be talking about a
Absolutely.
difference. That's a big game. Chiefs, Bengals.
Yep,
These
absolutely.
injuries, they're going to be effective. Speaking of, I mean, I think T. Higgins has cost himself a lot of money. I think he's shown the type of receiver that he really is. If Jamar can step up and be a big help, he's going to help his cause of getting paid big money.
Absolutely. And I mean, I don't know. You think they end up paying both of these guys?
No, it's Jamar,
It's
and
it's
what's ever left for T, maybe he'll take. I mean, I think he could come to terms to like a short-term deal for a little lesser money because he's been hurt so
absolutely.
much. But other than that, I mean, I can't see them wanting to pay both of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, receiver prices these days. I mean, and you're already paying Joe. There's some expensive guys on that defense as well. At a certain point you have to start making sacrifices. I mean, we saw it with the Bills too, right? Obviously not able to pay Stephon Diggs, because you got that big Josh Allen money really kicking in. They lose Tre'Davious White as well. So
Yeah, but Trey White
that's
had a
a cost.
bad game the other day. He got benched by the Rams.
Yeah, he got cooked.
Happens though. I mean, there are. I could see some reason to pay them both, but if you're gonna pay Joe Burrow and Jamar, that's really probably the two because that offensive line on the Bengals looks really bad. The defense doesn't look good. Hopefully, offensively, Zach Moss is probably one of their better offensive players. They look like.
Yeah, it does look that way. He was a lone bright spot in that offense.
Now, since we were talking about week 2, any games stand out to you, James? I think the Falcon-Eagle game is going to be interesting. They're really throwing this Falcons a lot. I mean, they did not look good starting out that offense. Looks like Arthur Smith's still there.
They really did, yeah, especially Kirk. He's another one, sort of like Rodgers. You have a guy in his late 30s coming off a major injury, an Achilles injury. And he had a slow start and he did not look good, especially because he has Penix pressed firmly against his back, ready to jump in at a moment's notice. And so the pressure's on for Kirk. At a certain point, you're going to start hearing it from the fans. As much as they don't even show up to the home games, there is going to start to be some Penix love growing if the struggles continue.
I'm also curious on how that defense plays. That's a good Eagle offense that really, really still ran the ball strong, even without Jason Kelce last week with Saquon Barkley. A.J. Brown's going to get his. Jalen Hurts had an okay day throwing the ball. That Falcons defense a lot of people say is underrated. That's going to be a tough test, especially if the offense is kind of mid, still kind of getting its stream. They got to use Bijan more. They got to find a way to get Bijan the ball so they can use play action to get Drake London and Kyle Pitts downfield more open.
Absolutely, and I mean it was quite impressive to see how efficient Bijan could be. Though not even getting in the end zone, though being shut out for most of the game. If not for the offsides penalty that they called on T.J. Watt, which later the ref apologized for. That Kyle Pitts touchdown never happens, and this team doesn't even get into the end zone. So for Bijan to go out there and still have a decent day, just with his catches and his rushes, I think really shows you what you have in him. And for the rest of the offense, I think it's just a wait and see. I do think at some point we're going to see some improvement here, and they're going to get on track.
I wanted to talk about an underrated game. I mean, I think a lot of people are excited to see the 49ers Vikings. I think that's going to be fun to see Sam Darnold get his revenge, or see the Cleveland Browns Jaguars, two inept quarterbacks going at it. But the Patriots Seahawks game is actually going to be kind of interesting. Geno Smith versus that Pats D. Patriots get a surprise win last week. Ramondre Stevenson looks to be a contender to be a top 5 back in fantasy football land.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some reason, this Pats team gave me Houston vibes from last year,
Wow.
and suddenly,
Does that mean we don't see
they
Drake May all
surprised some
season?
people. I think at some point we do see Drake May for sure. I don't think the brisket is going to hold off Drake May for very long. I mean, I'd be surprised if we get to halfway through the season and maybe Drake gets bumped in there. But you take a guy that high nowadays, he's going to see the field.
I do agree, although, if they're still winning games and Jacoby's not turning it over, like that's gonna be. Although I do think the Seahawks are gonna come in and kind of bring a reality check. I'd like to see these receivers less used as decoys, on the Seahawk team. Zach
Absolutely,
Charbonnet getting
absolutely.
receiving touchdowns on wheel routes is awesome to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievable. And you mentioned the decoy there, decoy Metcalf.
Tough.
It's tough, and frankly, I think this is what we've come to expect from the decoy. You're going to get these lulls weeks, but you're also going to get the explosion weeks, and so you have to live through. If you have the decoy, you have to live through these weeks in your starting lineup because there will come a time when he blows up and he wins you weeks too. So you got to hold out there. But he's got a couple receivers behind him too, competing for targets in JSN and Tyler Lockett.
What do you expect a reality check for this Saints organization when they have to go play the Cowboys this week in that tough defense, or do you think Derek Carr and the boys pull it together? Alvin Kamara
Yeah,
didn't look bad.
I would definitely expect a reality check, but I think the reality is they need to get the ball to Chris Olave. Not having him involved, if you heard that Derek Carr went out there and hung 47 points, and Olave had a couple receptions for 30 yards or so, I think you'd be shocked. So I expect Olave to get much more involved this week. The offense is gonna, for the most part, run through Kamara and himself. And so while I expect Olave to get some more targets, I definitely think this offense takes a step back.
How do you think Malik and these Packers do against your boy AR and the Colts?
Yeah, I mean, not excited for Malik. I think if you're a Jordan Love owner, you're happy to see that the Packers don't go out there and get a guy to start for them in the time being. I think that means Jordan Love is back sooner than later.
I'd agree with that.
I think we're expecting a month or so, possibly less. But man, based on how Malik has looked in the last two plays of the last game and how he looked last year in Tennessee, your hopes cannot be high for this offense. Though we believe in the coordinator and his ability, and you have Josh Jacobs back there, I think he's going to see some stacked boxes, and you might want to temper your expectations for these receivers.
I mean, that's funny that you say that because producer Justin was just talking before about like how he's not benching Jalen Reed and how like Jalen Reed's the wide receiver one. He's a Dane, and I think that's crazy. I would not be playing any Packers receivers. I'd be so afraid of Malik Willis and what he's going to be at quarterback.
Yeah, and that's an interesting move. I'd be interested to hear his reasoning there. Are you just rolling with your boy and putting your trust in him based on that production?
Why is she talking to you?
Uh,
Why are they both doing this? They're both being annoying. Tell her to get the fuck out. Oh my god, I fucking hate when my parents drink, James. Have I ever told you
yeah,
that before? They are the
nope.
fucking worst. All right, they absolutely suck ass.
Yeah.
It's all right. We can always edit it. No, what? We
Wait,
cut
wait.
it
So
to
what?
you,
I feel like you just clip that right in. Yeah.
Justin. We segued to you. It was perfect. Oh my god.
We were talking about Jaden Reed, and I was like, I'd be interested to hear producer Hussey's thoughts here. Says he's confident putting him in the starting lineup there. Are are you just putting your faith in your guy and the numbers that he's showing you?
Yeah, I have full confidence in Jaden Reed. He's absolutely cemented himself as the wide receiver one in Green Bay. Um,
Wow.
I believe in the coaching staff. They had Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, developed him into a good quarterback. And Malik's only been there a couple weeks, but if they just give him a QB friendly game plan and put it into his playmakers' hands, I feel like he can succeed.
So you're
And
looking for the Justin Fields treatment. Just use those weapons.
absolutely,
Yeah, don't make any
absolutely,
mistakes.
yup. Keep it
I,
nice and easy. Malik still hasn't had a lot of in-game reps. He did start a couple in his rookie season, but other than that, he really didn't have much of some in-game time. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
I
maybe
think
he just needs some time.
yeah, and with that he can
I,
up the level of his receivers, and Jaden Reed should be able to keep up what he's able to do, in the air and on the ground as well.
Wow. Wow,
I
that's a
think
bold take.
I think it's interesting that James says that's a bold take, Justin, considering earlier how we were off the pod talking privately in that dynasty league that we are all in together. Secret how
Sure.
James, a man who has several quarterbacks, made a trade to get himself some Michael Penix, but in that trade, sacrificing something he needs because he doesn't really have a Dane wide receiver in BT Brian Thomas Jr., who despite having Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback, who we all can agree has been rather mid since coming in, seems like an absolute Dane. So, James, I really got to ask you, as someone, and for the people, let me describe. He has Anthony Richardson at quarterback. He has Jordan Love at quarterback, who is currently banged up, but he has him. He has Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Am I missing anyone else, Justin?
Um, I believe he has a fourth option in Michael Penix. Uh,
That is what he acquired. He acquired the
yes.
rights to Michael Penix in trading. And who is his number one receiver? James, who's your number one receiver?
That's a bit of an ambiguous question right now.
Say,
You
and
know,
that is why he had the chance to stack with Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. and have himself arguably a guy who could be a wide receiver one. He is right now dealing with a lot of wide receiver twos and a lot of wide receiver threes in his league. Plus, in this dynasty league, he also convinced the whole league to add a flex spot. So we added not a quarterback spot, but a wide receiver, tight end, running back. So why he wouldn't take a wide receiver or even a running back with that ninth pick. Instead, he traded back to later take Michael Penix and allowed someone else to trade up and get Brian Thomas Jr. is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. And the fact
yeah,
you
I mean,
criticize someone else for a move
you
that I think,
go
I
on.
agree.
I mean, Justin agrees.
Sure, sure, and you all are certainly welcome to agree with each other. And frankly, for me, what it just comes down to is the value. I know I can move my value around and get it to where it needs to be. But for me, I'm sitting at 9. I mean, I'm a guy that's bought into Michael Penix. I'm a guy who likes to see him go out there, maybe sit for half a year, if not a full year. Though I do expect to see him based on the capital that they used. But and if he sits a full year and he gets a chance to really learn and develop around Kirk Cousins and eventually get to walk into an offense um, with 3 top 10 picks as for his skill positions. I mean, you're talking about Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, all around you with an above-average offensive line, and a guy who has some of the best pocket presence in the class, has one of the best arms in the class, if not the best. I expect him to be able to wheel and deal in there from day as soon as he is able to walk in. And so, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to decide between Penix and BT. BT, a guy who I think has a lot of upside,
Ton of
but
upside. Could be the best receiver in this class.
yeah, it's definitely
Especially
possible. And
especially
I know
with especially with
I,
Malik's quarterback play. We didn't even talk about the
sure,
issues Marvin Harrison has
Marvin,
at what
sure,
after his bad week.
sure, yeah, and he definitely has that potential. I think there was a big 4 wide receivers there, He was definitely one of them. I mean, for me, the tier of Marvin and Malik long term, I'm not looking to judge this thing on 1 week. I think we can
True.
both agree that both Marvin and Malik are going to get on track, and I think it'd be interested to see, after year 3, after year 4, when these wide receivers really come into their own, what it
When they're
looks
getting
like.
paid.
And that's the thing. And it's, these things are going to take 4 or 5 years to really play themselves out and figure out how these deals go and who won what. Um, but for me, they were in the same tier, BT and Penix. And so to get a little bit of cheese and still be able to get Penix on top, when I was thinking about taking him at 9 in the first place, pick up Jalen Polk as well later on in that draft, along with that trade.
Because you needed the
It was
receiver.
Sure, I needed some receiver depth for sure. Um, receiving room definitely needs some work, if not some development, some time, as producer Hussey put it earlier. Um, but frankly, I'm very happy. I love my quarterbacks. I mean, after that draft, immediately in week 1, we saw one of my best quarterback right now in Jordan Love, saw him go down. And so I like the pick, and I'm very excited to see the Pennies in the game.
We were talking about, because also in that same draft you took Marvin Harrison Jr. and obviously Kyler Murray made some comments that had a lot of people questioning, oh, he doesn't have to get on the ball and everything. You're not worried about Marvin after week 1. That Maserati's going to get in gear once the offensive coordinator figures out, how to get him and utilize those tools. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what I have loved to see Marvin go out there and light it up, get 10 targets, catch 8, for 107 and a TD.
I mean,
Yeah,
people
absolutely. I would
predicted
have
that.
loved it. And frankly, I think most of us were expecting a fast start here from a guy like Marvin, who has already an incredible route tree and feel for the game. I think we were expecting a quick start. I definitely was. But I'm not looking to overreact to week 1. It is week 1, after all. And so, yeah, I'm still quite confident on Marvin. Not shaking in my boots quite yet.
I mean, I wouldn't be either. I mean, I would be a lot more shaken in my boots if I was a Malik Neighbors owner, because that offense looked absolutely. I mean, if I'm a Roma Dunze owner with the injury too, like that, but Malik is because you don't even know what they're gonna. I don't even think they're gonna be bad enough to put them in the sweepstakes to get one of the best 2 quarterbacks probably in the draft. And even if you'd want that, do you want a rookie quarterback? Like that is like Malik is a talent, but that's why I think Brian Thomas to go back to was such a T-Law's the guy there. You had Brian Thomas, so you could develop that connection. Really, you just need opportunity. I think the whole Tua thing and Geno Smith thing should really tell people that it's really opportunity and the environment and the guys around. This isn't, basketball or baseball. There's a lot more guys on the field, and a lot of things need to come together. The coaches, everything, the plays coming in. It's more than just the one piece. It's all the opportunity and the way things are built around.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's really why I fell in love with the 2 guys that I ended up taking in this draft, in Marvin and Michael Penix, because of what they have around them. Having though he is a baby boy, an established quarterback who has shown us elite performances in Kyler Murray. You have that guy there, and we talked
Kyler's a
about the rest.
star. We're not going to disrespect K1 here.
Sure.
That's just, but before we get going, I would like to tell the people that a couple sits and starts this week from my own personal fantasy team. I'm going to likely end up sitting CMC because I'm not expecting him to play probably for a couple weeks. That seems to be what the narrative is. They're probably not going to want to push him. The games coming up aren't too serious for him. They're playing for games in December and January. They're not really worried about games in September. I think Garrett Wilson's going to have a monster day. Tennessee Titans. I think Aaron's going to look to take advantage of an opportunity on a bad team. Titans blew a lead to a bad Bears team that really didn't give up. I mean, the defense played good, but no one really challenged them on anything. I'm probably going to bench Drake London, like we talked about before. Not really sold on what that offense is doing. It's just, how that's going for me. James, you got any starts or sits for yourself?
No starts, but you can sit on this dick. And it's been a great episode with you here, Mikey. Finishing up 182 here, cranking our way to 200. And I'm excited to get back with you, kid.
I mean, yeah, you can just go F off, honestly. What a way to end episode 182. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Twitter, Stitcher, Instagram, to Justin Behind the Glass. I don't even know what this guy
Woo!
just said to me. How do I respond back to this guy without, pummeling him down? It's unbelievable. It's okay. His fantasy team loses every single week. He's got nothing else.
Yeah,
Just
this is
donates
all I
money.
have.
This is really all he has. Peace.